vision and pay me. It's never to sway me. Indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity. This your opportunity, your opportunity.
It is 2 in the morning on a Sunday, right?
Oh, yeah. The absolute worst time for anything to happen in IT.
Exactly. I mean, most of the world is asleep. But in the sterile quiet of a server room, an automated failure email just pings into a solitary inbox.
Just reading that scenario gives me anxiety.
Right. So an invoice file just got rejected by a major big box retailer. And why? Because a routing code was inexplicably modified on their end.
And, of course, no one was notified.
The recipient of that email logs on from their laptop, sitting in bed. They write a quick script to bypass the validation error, force the invoice through the gateway, and go right back to sleep.
And the craziest part is the company never even knew it happened.
Totally blind to it. They were like 10 minutes away from a massive supply chain failure, and they have no idea.
Yeah, that invisible safety net is exactly what we're tackling today.
Welcome to EDI on the Street, where we discuss all things EDI and supply chain.
So glad to be here.
We're coming to you straight from our respective desks here at GraceBlood. And today, well, we are talking about that specific person who fixed that 2 a.m. error. More specifically, we are unpacking the scenario that makes IT directors and supply chain teams just break into a cold sweat.
Yeah, the moment your sole EDI person gives their 2-week notice.
Right. That hidden hero who holds the entire map of your digital ecosystem exclusively in their head.
It's honestly the defining moment of vulnerability for a modern enterprise.
It really is.
The sudden realization that millions of dollars in revenue rely entirely on, one individual's undocumented intuition.
Yeah, and I want to speak directly to you, the listener, right now. Whether you are just catching up on supply chain best practices, or if you're the one actively managing a massive ERP system day in and day out.
You almost certainly have this person in your organization.
So our mission today is to explore how organizations unintentionally build this mission-critical infrastructure around a single human brain.
And we'll look at what actually breaks when that brain leaves the building.
Crucially, we want to figure out how to transition from that fragile setup to true organizational resilience.
Ideally, way before that person ever hands in their resignation letter.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to solve the problem, we first have to dissect the root cause, right? How does a company even arrive at this dangerous precipice?
Because it's never intentional.
Exactly. It is never an intentional strategic decision made in a boardroom.
No, nobody sits down, pulls up a PowerPoint and says, all right, team, our official disaster recovery plan for our multi-million-dollar supply chain is, Dave.
But here is the trap. The better Dave is at his job, the more hidden this massive operational risk becomes.
That's such a good point.
A highly competent person solves complex integration problems and untangles ERP data flow issues before anyone else notices.
They put out the fires before the broader business even smells the smoke.
Exactly. So from the perspective of the operations team, the warehouse managers, everything looks perfectly fine.
Yeah, purchase orders flow into the ERP, tickets generate, shipments go out.
The executive team has literally no obvious reason to audit the support structure.
It is a brutal paradox, honestly. Their extreme competence actively creates this extreme vulnerability for the company.
Because they never let the system fail.
Right. And in the tech sector, we refer to this as the bus factor.
The bus factor.
It asks a slightly morbid but, highly necessary question. How many people in your organization could suddenly get hit by a bus before a critical system completely fails?
Or, to keep it positive, how many people could win the lottery and vanish to a private island?
I prefer the private island version. But yeah, before the system goes into total catastrophic failure.
And in a terrifying number of supply chain environments, the bus factor is exactly 1.
One single point of failure. I mean, only one person knows the van configuration.
Only one person knows where the AS2 security certificates are stored.
Yes. And only one person knows what that mysterious, totally undocumented Python script actually does at midnight every Sunday.
It's scary.
In EDI, an innocuous mapping change to accommodate a new warehouse location can somehow sever the invoice generation for your oldest client.
Just because they share some hidden line of code in the translation software.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is the distinction we really must make between technical reliability and organizational resilience.
Yes. Let's dig into that.
They're two entirely different concepts, yet executive leadership confuses them constantly.
All the time.
Technical reliability just means your EDI platform is mechanically solid. The software engine works.
The transactions are flowing back and forth over AS2 or SFTP without dropping packets, right?
Exactly. The translation engine is parsing the X12 or IDIFACT data perfectly. The technical system is doing its job.
But organizational resilience is totally different.
Right.
So you can have a technically flawless system that is actually incredibly fragile because the organizational resilience is effectively zero.
Precisely. If only one person knows how to support the technically reliable system, your entire operation is completely nakedly exposed.
And we should be clear, this concentrated expertise is a systemic failure of the organization's management.
Absolutely. It is not the fault of the hardworking employee who simply stepped up to solve problems. Management failed to build the safety net.
I'm really glad you emphasized that because we are absolutely not blaming the EDI expert here.
Not at all. They did their job, and they usually went way above and beyond.
But when leadership finally realizes this vulnerability exists, usually when rumors start swirling that the expert might be job hunting, their first instinct is always the same.
Well, if Dave leaves, we will just hire another EDI veteran.
Right. We'll just post a job for someone with 10 years of X12 experience, and they'll slide right into the chair.
And that is a fundamental misunderstanding of how B2B integration actually works.
Why is that?
Because hiring an EDI veteran does not solve the problem. Knowing the syntax of EDI is, at best, only about 20% of the job. EDI environments are effectively archaeological dig sites of your company's business decisions. They just accumulate sediment over time.
That historical context is literally everything. A new hire might know standard EDI syntax flawlessly.
They could have a master's degree in supply chain technology.
Exactly. But they have absolutely no idea why your company built an incredibly convoluted map with backward logic back in 2018.
They don't know that it was built that way because you merged with a supplier who used an archaic version of SAP.
And Dave had to write a custom string manipulation routine just to force the data to fit into your NetSuite environment.
Or, they don't know why Trading Partner C requires a completely non-standard qualifier in their purchase order.
Oh, this happens all the time. The new person looks at the map and thinks, this qualifier is violating standard X12 compliance. I should fix this.
So they fix it.
And suddenly $1 million worth of orders get rejected because that specific buyer at Trading Partner C insists on using an obsolete code from 2004.
In all of that context, every partner-specific exception, every ERP workaround currently lives exclusively inside one human being's head.
So when you hire a replacement, you aren't just trying to replace technical skill.
No, you are attempting to replace years of accumulated organizational memory.
Which brings us to the actual catalyst, the nightmare scenario.
The dreaded Monday morning.
It is Monday morning. Your EDI wizard schedules a sudden, uncharacteristic 15-minute sync with their manager. They have accepted another position. The 2-week notice has officially been submitted. The countdown clock starts ticking.
Suddenly, there's a frantic, desperate scramble to document 10 solid years of complex, nuanced history in 10 business days.
You literally see project managers running around with blank spreadsheets. They're demanding, what systems do you access? Where are the passwords? Write down every map you've ever built.
It is a functionally useless exercise in a system this complex. The 2-week notice period is simply not enough time.
It's just not.
And the primary reason it fails, why you cannot cram a decade of knowledge into a fortnight of transition, is because the business does not stop.
Right. The transactions don't pause. Your massive retail customers are not going to call you and say, oh, we heard your integration person is leaving. Take your time.
We'll just halt our distribution centers for a month while you figure things out.
Yeah, that's never happening. The business keeps moving at its normal, relentless, high-pressure pace.
So the departing employee is expected to do their highly demanding day job, putting out fires, fixing failed transactions, while simultaneously downloading their entire brain into a shared corporate drive. We have to remember that EDI isn't just a piece of software sitting in a dark corner of the server room.
It is the digital connective tissue of your entire business ecosystem. It links your warehouse, your transportation providers, your accounts payable, and accounts receivable.
So I want to trace that blast radius, step by step, because we at GraceBlood have watched this exact cascade happen to companies who thought they were safe.
Let's do it. Let's say a massive order comes in over EDI.
Okay.
But because of a minor mapping error, Maybe the partner introduced a new store location code your map has never seen before. The translation fails.
The document basically hits a brick wall and misses the ERP system entirely.
And when it misses the ERP, your internal visibility drops to 0.
Your customer service team is completely blind to the order. If a buyer calls to check on it, customer service will look in the system and swear the order doesn't exist.
Which means the warehouse never gets the pick ticket.
Right. They don't know the order exists, so they don't pick the product, they don't pack it, and they definitely don't route it for shipping.
And because the physical shipment never occurs, the advanced ship notice document fails to generate.
And for anyone dealing with major retailers, the ASN is arguably the most critical document in the entire supply chain.
Oh, absolutely. Retailers strictly require the digital ASN to be loaded into their system before the physical truck ever arrives at their distribution center.
If that truck bumps the dock and there is no ASN in the retailer system, they don't know what is on the truck.
They don't know how to allocate the labor to unload it. They are furious.
So what do? They issue massive financial chargebacks.
We are talking thousands of dollars in penalties per incident. Sometimes it's a percentage of the total invoice value.
They will wipe out your profit margin on an entire truckload of goods because of one missing digital document.
It's insane. The product flow is disrupted. The information flow is broken.
And ultimately, the financial flow stops. The invoice is held up, which immediately impacts your accounts receivable and chokes your cash flow.
What started as a tiny, unmapped syntax error in a digital file.
Which is a completely solvable problem if Dave were still there to catch it in the error queue.
Exactly. It is cascaded into a warehouse failure, a damaged customer relationship, and a massive financial penalty.
So a delayed breakdown is exponentially worse than an immediate one.
Because the longer that automated system runs broken in the background, the larger the backlog of operational disasters becomes.
You aren't just fixing one map. You are untangling a week's worth of missed shipments, angry emails, and financial reconciliation.
And as that panic finally sets in, as the cascading failures start hitting the operations team and the CFO's desk, companies usually reach for familiar Band-Aids.
They always look for internal quick fixes to stop the bleeding.
Which brings us to the most frustrating part of the whole cycle. We really need to dismantle these quick fixes.
Specifically, documentation, cross-training, and just ignoring the problem.
Let's start with the most common illusion, the documentation trap. The famous SharePoint folder of salvation.
Oh, the SharePoint folder. Someone in management invariably says, we just need to meticulously document everything. If we have standard operating procedures written down, we are totally protected.
I want to be nuanced here, though. Documentation is absolutely necessary.
Oh, for sure. You must have runbooks. You must document trading partner connection requirements.
You must document escalation procedures, credentials, and basic ERP integration points.
But as a continuity strategy for a deeply complex system, documentation expires almost instantly.
It is out of date the exact second you hit save.
Trading partner requirements shift weekly. Your internal network connections change.
But more fundamentally, documentation cannot capture human intuition or troubleshooting logic.
You can write down the step-by-step procedure for handling a standard failed purchase order. Click here, check this field, resubmit.
But when an anomaly occurs that has never happened before, which in supply chain is basically every Tuesday, that anomaly is not going to be in the manual.
Someone still has to possess the foundational technical expertise to investigate the raw data from scratch.
Furthermore, documentation rarely reflects reality.
Let's talk about how IT and operations actually function in the real world. We all know about the famous temporary workaround.
Oh, the temporary workaround is the most permanent piece of infrastructure in any IT department.
It really is.
Picture this. A critical $1 million order is failing to integrate at 4 p.m. on a Friday. The warehouse team is screaming because the truck is leaving in an hour.
So your EDI person goes into the middleware. They write a quick, highly custom, incredibly fragile script to force the data through to the ERP so the warehouse can ship it.
And they think to themselves, I will definitely go back and fix this properly on Monday when I have more time.
But Monday brings 5 new, entirely different fires. So they never fix the Friday script.
And they definitely never document it.
Nope.
3 years later, that temporary Friday afternoon script is a load-bearing pillar of your entire supply chain architecture.
Literally no one knows it exists until the person who wrote it leaves, an ERP update breaks the script, and everything grinds to a halt.
Documentation will never capture the temporary workarounds that morphed into permanent infrastructure.
Which is why you cannot document your way out of a bus factor of 1.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There is a very simple diagnostic you can run right now, today, to see if your documentation and your overall continuity plan are actually working.
Forget the audits. Forget the risk assessments. Just apply the vacation test.
Yes, the vacation test is brilliant in its simplicity and its brutal honesty.
You just ask one question. Can your sole EDI person take a 2-week vacation without checking their phone on the beach?
Can they actually truly disconnect? Or are they sitting in a beach chair in Mexico staring at a laptop screen, frantically trying to fix a mapping error over spotty hotel Wi-Fi?
All while their family's out swimming.
Right, because everybody at the home office knows they are the single point of failure.
If your critical employee cannot take a genuine unplugged vacation, you do not have a robust organization.
You have a massive vulnerability masquerading as a functioning department.
And beyond the sheer operational risk to the company, it is deeply unfair to the employee.
It is. Being the indispensable hero sounds really flattering during your annual performance review. It feels good to be needed.
But the operational reality of it is exhausting. You're always on call.
It leads straight to burnout, which is ironically the exact thing that drives them to hand in their 2-week notice in the first place.
It is a heavy, unsustainable burden to carry. And this highlights a fundamental misunderstanding many executive teams have.
What's that?
The goal of a continuity strategy shouldn't be to make your EDI employee less valuable. You aren't trying to minimize their contribution or make them feel expendable.
You are trying to make the organization less dependent on their constant availability. You want to support them so they can actually sleep at night.
Exactly. Which leads companies to the next flawed quick fix, the cross-training myth.
Oh, this one is classic.
Management looks at the overworked EDI person and says, okay, we hear you, you're overwhelmed. We are going to cross-train Sarah from the infrastructure team.
She's great with servers, she understands the network, she can handle EDI when you're on vacation.
Cross-training is always well-intentioned. It sounds great in a management meeting.
But in the context of complex B2B integration, it is largely a myth. Let's look at the mechanics of this. How much time is Sarah actually going to spend working with the EDI system after that initial 3-day training session?
Almost none. If she is an infrastructure tech or a database administrator, her primary job is keeping the network up or managing the SQL servers.
She is evaluated and compensated based on network uptime, not EDI transaction flow.
She might only touch the EDI translation software once every 9 months when the main guy is out sick with the flu.
And if you only touch a highly complex mission-critical system once every 9 months, how prepared are you really going to be when a live production crisis hits at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday?
Not prepared at all. EDI requires a very broad, very deep mastery of multiple disciplines. It is not just one skill you can pick up in an afternoon.
You are dealing with arcane data syntax, varied communication protocols like AS2, SFTP, and API authentications.
You have to understand complex business rules, strict trading partner compliance mandates, ERP database architecture, and intricate error handling.
It is a totally different language. Knowing how to reboot a server or even knowing how to write SQL queries does not mean you know how to read raw X12 data.
Right. It doesn't help you figure out why an invoice is failing validation because of a missing ST segment.
Plus, you have to understand the business side of the supply chain.
Oh, that's huge.
I've seen situations where the technical EDI transaction is formatted perfectly. The syntax is flawless. The file passes every validation check.
But the business process behind it is broken.
Exactly. The unit of measure is wrong, like the buyer ordered cases, but the ERP sent the price for individual eaches.
A cross-trained IT generalist is not going to have the nuanced business context to untangle a unit of measure discrepancy between a WMS and a retail buyer.
They will just look at the technical log, see a green check mark, and say, the system says it sent fine, not my problem.
Writing down steps for troubleshooting is entirely useless when the anomaly isn't in the manual and the person reading the manual doesn't speak the underlying language of the data.
So internal documentation fails as a standalone fix. Internal cross-training fails because it lacks depth and daily repetition.
Which brings us back to the ticking clock. The 2 weeks are up. The EDI person walks out the door.
The internal quick fixes have failed to prevent the delayed cascade. The company inevitably assumes, well, we just need to hire a replacement.
We will go out into the open market, engage a recruiter, and hire a new EDI manager.
And this is where we have to fundamentally rethink how system support works in a modern organization.
We have to pivot away from the hiring problem and move toward the partnership model. Direct one-to-one hiring is a heavily flawed strategy for mitigating this specific vulnerability.
The hiring problem is agonizing. I've watched HR departments struggle with this for months.
It's painful.
First of all, the cycle is excruciatingly long. You have to write a highly technical job description, which HR usually doesn't understand, so they just copy and paste something from the internet.
Then you have to recruit candidates in a very niche field.
A field where the absolute best people are already employed, well compensated, and probably not looking to move unless you offer a massive premium.
Then you conduct rounds of technical interviews, assuming you even have someone internally qualified to evaluate their technical skill.
Which you don't because your expert just left.
Right. But you finally find someone with the right mix of integration knowledge and ERP experience. You make an offer, you negotiate.
They have to give their own notice to their current employer. Finally, 3 or 4 months later, they start.
And that is just getting them physically in the building. Then the real onboarding begins.
And as we discussed extensively, even a phenomenal top-tier hire has to learn your specific organizational context completely from scratch.
They have to learn your naming conventions, your specific historical exceptions, your escalation paths.
They have to untangle those undocumented Friday afternoon scripts. This transition period takes months of severely reduced productivity.
But wait, here is the most critical strategic flaw in this entire approach.
What's that?
Let's say you do it. Let's say you spend 6 months, you hire a genius, and they learn your entire system perfectly.
Okay, best case scenario.
If you simply hire one new person to replace the one person who left, and you load all of that newly acquired institutional knowledge squarely onto their shoulders, you haven't actually solved the structural problem.
Wow, you're right. You have done absolutely nothing to improve your organizational resilience.
You've simply replaced one single point of failure with a brand new single point of failure.
You are resetting the countdown clock on the exact same organizational bomb.
Which brings us to the architectural model we champion here at GraceBlood, the outsourcing or co-managed team model.
I'm going to challenge you on this, though, because I know what the listeners are thinking.
Bring it on.
How does bringing in an external firm actually change the game for an organization? I'm struggling to see how a co-managed team doesn't just introduce more chaos.
More chaos?
Yeah, like if you have 5 external people touching the system instead of one internal guy, aren't you just multiplying the risk of someone breaking a map because they don't know what the other guy did?
It is a fair challenge, but it fundamentally misrepresents how a managed service operates.
Okay, break it down for me.
A professional co-managed model, where an external firm like GraceBlood works directly alongside your remaining internal resources, changes the foundational architecture of your support. You do it through strict standard operating procedures.
You are no longer relying on an individual's memory. You are relying on an organization's methodology.
Exactly. When a team manages your environment, every mapping change, every script update, every configuration tweak is subjected to version control, peer review, and mandatory documentation within our internal systems.
So if one engineer on our team goes on vacation, your EDI does not stop.
If an engineer takes a new role, the knowledge does not walk out of your building because the process is supported by an entire organization with documented procedures.
Structured escalation protocols, constant coverage. We eliminate the bus factor by distributing the knowledge across a resilient structure.
And you gain diverse specialists that a single internal hire could never possibly match.
Let's be realistic. One human being cannot be an absolute master of every single ERP database structure, every single mapping logic, and every single retail ecosystem requirement.
It's impossible. But in a team model, you get access to a deep bench of talent.
You get an ERP database expert who knows exactly how NetSuite's restlets function.
You get a hardcore mapping guru who can optimize complex X12 looping arrays.
And you get a specialist who knows exactly how the massive retail grocery ecosystem operates and what their specific ASN requirements are.
You are tapping into collective specialized expertise rather than hoping one generalist can juggle 10 different highly technical disciplines perfectly.
Okay, I love this in theory. The redundancy is great, the expertise is great, but let's talk about the spreadsheet.
The budget.
Frankly, the CFO is going to look at the cost of a managed service and balk compared to a single internal salary. Isn't paying an external firm going to look way worse on the budget line than just hiring a new Dave?
That is the most common pushback we hear from the finance department, and it requires a complete reframing of what you were actually purchasing. When you engage a co-managed partner, you aren't just buying the equivalent hours of one person writing code. You are buying continuous, uninterrupted coverage.
You are buying a comprehensive safety net that covers sick days, holidays, and turnover.
You are buying instant access to diverse, highly specialized expertise that would cost you 5 different full-time salaries to replicate internally.
You are basically buying organizational sleep at night.
Exactly. You are buying the guarantee that a 2 a.m. failure doesn't result in a missed morning shipment.
And if the CFO is strictly looking at the spreadsheet, we urge them to calculate the hidden costs of the single point of failure model.
What is the actual financial price of a missed shipment because an order didn't cross over to the ERP and customer service was blind to it?
What is the cost of an ASN failure with a massive big box retailer that results in a 3% chargeback on $1 million invoice?
Those retailer penalties are brutal.
I've seen companies wipe out their entire profit margin on a truckload of goods, essentially paying for the privilege of manufacturing and shipping their own product because of one missing digital document.
Or consider the opportunity cost, which is often the largest hidden number.
Oh, absolutely.
What is the financial cost to the business of delaying a massive new customer onboarding by 6 months because your sole internal EDI person is too busy putting out daily mapping fires?
When you factor in the cost of risk, the cost of delayed revenue, and the cost of operational disruption, a co-managed partnership is vastly more cost-effective than crossing your fingers and praying your one internal hire never gets sick.
And we should clarify a very important distinction here. Outsourcing or using a co-managed model does not mean you were just tossing the keys over the fence, washing your hands of the entire system, and firing your IP staff.
Not at all. That is a critical point of failure for some outsourcing models. What stays internal is just as important as what is managed externally.
Internal teams must absolutely retain business ownership of the process.
You still need someone internally who understands the major workflows and how they impact the physical supply chain.
You need internal stakeholders who understand how EDI serves the broader business objectives. They need to manage the customer relationships, dictate the business priorities, and define the rules of engagement.
An external partner can build the most elegant, technically robust integration possible, but only the internal team truly knows what matters most to their specific customers.
The healthiest, most successful model is a true partnership. The internal team owns the strategy, the business logic, and the relationship, while the external team monitors the daily flow and provides unbreakable continuity.
Hearing all this doom and gloom makes me wonder if there's any way to reverse the damage once you realize you have a buzz factor of one.
There is.
We have diagnosed the problem. We have dismantled the quick fixes. We have explored the structural advantage of a partnership model. Now, let's move from theory to practical application. Let's build the action plan for organizational resilience.
Let's do.
What exactly should the listener do today, depending on where they are in this life cycle?
We have to break this down into 2 distinct scenarios. Scenario A, your EDI person has not quit yet. Scenario B, they already quit and the clock is ticking.
Let's start with scenario A, because this is the ideal state.
If your expert is still in the building, this is the best possible time to act.
Do not wait for the resignation letter to start planning for the resignation.
Partnering with an external firm right now is a massive strategic advantage. And surprisingly, it is actually a huge win for your internal EDI wizard.
Why is it a win for them?
Because if you bring in a co-managed partner to handle the daily grind, the repetitive support tickets, the minor mapping errors, the basic trading partner requests, the certificate renewals, you free up your internal expert.
You liberate them from the operational weeds. They don't want to spend their time fixing a unit of measure error for the 100th time.
You let them focus on the high-value strategic goals you probably hired them for in the first place.
With the daily maintenance offloaded to a resilient team, your internal expert can finally focus on ERP modernization.
Large-scale automation projects, evaluating new supply chain software, and improving overall data quality across the enterprise.
You aren't replacing them, you are giving them leverage to actually improve the business instead of just keeping it on life support.
Okay, but let's talk about the nightmare. Scenario B.
What if they already quit?
The clock is ticking down from 14 days, and that includes 2 weekends.
Then you are in pure triage mode. You must accept that you cannot document everything in 10 business days. It is mathematically impossible.
So you must ruthlessly prioritize. You identify your highest volume and highest value trading partners, the ones that will bankrupt you if they fail.
You meticulously document exactly how production issues for those specific partners are detected and resolved.
You look for the immediate ticking time bombs, what AS2 security certificates are expiring in the next 90 days, what annual van contracts are up for renewal.
Yes, and you need to sit down with the departing employee and ask them very specific operational questions, not just how does the system work, but what breaks most often.
You need to ask, what do you instinctively check every single morning when you first log in with your coffee?
Which trading partners require the most manual hand-holding? What system alerts actually matter, and which ones are just noise that you ignore?
And most importantly, what undocumented knowledge, what custom scripts, what weird workarounds exist purely in your head that we are going to stumble over next month?
Those are the questions that will save you during the transition. And to help organizations evaluate their current risk level, whether they're in scenario A or scenario B, we have developed a set of 7 diagnostic questions.
If you are listening to this right now, you should be asking these questions of your own operations today.
I will walk through them. Number 1. If your primary EDI person disappeared tomorrow, exactly who takes over?
Do you actually know, or is it just assumed someone in IT will figure it out?
Number 2. Who can immediately troubleshoot an urgent failure with your top 5 most important trading partners?
Number 3. Is your environment actually documented, or do you just think it is documented in some forgotten SharePoint folder that hasn't been updated since 2021?
Let me jump in with number 4. Do multiple people in your organization truly understand the mapping logic, the communication protocols, and how the data specifically integrates into your customized ERP?
Number 5, which we covered. Can that primary person take a true unplugged vacation without a laptop?
Number 6. If you are forced to hire a replacement tomorrow, how long would it realistically take for that person to fully onboard and understand your unique environment? And can your supply chain survive that gap?
And number 7, would your organization be fundamentally better protected if your internal team had an experienced, co-managed EDI partner standing right behind them, providing that safety net?
If the answers to those questions make you uncomfortable, that is actually highly valuable information.
Because now you know exactly where your systemic risk lies, and you can take proactive action before a crisis forces your hand.
And what does success look like? What is the best case scenario when you actually implement this kind of organizational resilience?
The best case scenario is incredibly, wonderfully boring.
We love boring in supply chain. Boring is profitable. Exciting means things are on fire.
In the best case scenario, the person gives their 2-week notice, and instead of blind panic, executive meetings, and frantic documentation sessions, everyone just says, "Congratulations on the new role. We are sorry to see you go. We appreciate everything you've done."
There is an orderly, calm handoff to the co-managed partner who already knows the environment.
There are absolutely no disruptions to your customers. Orders keep flowing. Invoices keep processing. The business doesn't skip a beat.
And crucially, the organization has the luxury of time. You aren't forced to hire the first mediocre candidate who applies just to stop the bleeding.
You have the breathing room to evaluate your departmental structure and find the exact right internal replacement if you even decide you still need one.
It transforms a massive operational crisis into a routine administrative transition. Because at the end of the day, EDI is not a side project for one guy in IT.
It is core, critical infrastructure. It demands the exact same rigorous continuity planning, risk assessment, and redundancy that you would demand for a massive physical warehouse facility or your enterprise financial software.
You wouldn't let one single person hold the only physical key to the warehouse. You shouldn't let one person hold the only digital key to your entire supply chain.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, resilience gives you options. When an organization is constantly operating in crisis mode or constantly living one resignation away from total disaster, they make poor reactive decisions.
When you have structural resilience, you can make strategic, proactive decisions that drive the business forward.
So what does this all mean?
Speaking from our daily experience here at GraceBlood, it means that an employee resignation should never be a business crisis.
The solution to the bus factor of 1 is intentionally building redundancy and establishing a co-managed partnership long before that 2-week notice ever hits a manager's desk.
You have to actively decouple your technical reliability from your organizational resilience. They must both be strong independently.
I want to leave you, the listener, with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
We have spent this entire time talking about the catastrophic risks of the system breaking if your EDI expert leaves. But think about the strategic cost of the bus factor of 1 if they stay.
The opportunity cost is stagnation.
If your lone EDI expert is spending 100% of their valuable time, energy, and technical brain power just keeping the legacy lights on, just putting out daily mapping fires, fixing AS2 connections, and managing minor trading partner updates, who is preparing your supply chain for the future?
No one is. The future is being ignored in favor of surviving today.
Who is looking at upcoming real-time API integrations that your biggest clients are going to demand next year?
Who is evaluating AI-driven demand forecasting tools to optimize your inventory? Who is modernizing your data flow to handle the next decade of retail compliance?
The biggest risk isn't just that your EDI person might leave tomorrow. It is that while they stay trapped in the operational weeds of daily maintenance, your entire company's technological capabilities are frozen in time.
You aren't just risking a breakdown. You are actively guaranteeing structural stagnation.
That is the true hidden cost of failing to build organizational resilience. You forfeit your competitive future because you are entirely consumed by surviving the present.
And on that note, it is time to wrap things up.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of EDI on the Street. We hope it gave you some practical tools to assess your own organizational resilience, understand the mechanisms behind the risks, and maybe prompted you to have some necessary conversations with your IT and operations teams today.
Start by asking those 7 diagnostic questions. Find out where your true vulnerabilities are and fix the roof while the sun is shining.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep those transactions moving.
This way we indigenous, maybe we winning this crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity, this your opportunity.